All right. Hi, folks. Steven here. This is going to be a discussion of live Pokemon music. And right now, I'm just waiting for Anne to get in. She was here for the test stream about an hour ago. So I'm guessing she's still doing these things, but I'm guessing she's just got maybe a little tied up with something. Let's see here. Hit reload on that. Just so I can. A little monitor over here, my little thing that monitors the. There we are. So let's see. Still kind of waiting for Anne to get on here. Sorry about that. Okay. But just to give you a little preview, this is going to be our discussion, like I said, live Pokemon music, where we've each picked out 3 tracks. And that's kind of how it's split up. Let's see. I picked, just to give a little preview, I picked a live version of Don't Say You Love Me by M2M. Let's see, a live version of Flying Without Wings by Westlife. And a live version of Brother My Brother by Blessed Union of Souls. Let's see, if I remember correctly, Anne has picked out, let's see, a live version of A Small Thing by Suka Hayashi. Let's see, a live version of Smiling Face by Iki Monogatari. I think I got that relatively close this time. And a live version of Dreams by Alicia Antonio. In addition, if you have any comments about live Pokemon music, live versions, we're focusing here on vocal songs, and we're also not really considering Pokemon Live, the stage show, or the Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions. That's not particularly... I'm just adjusting the microphone stand a little bit. What we're looking at here. Let's see. But rather we're taking a look at vocal Pokemon songs associated with the franchise that have been done before live audience. This is certainly something we can do another episode in the future. There are a few of those there that, let's see, I hope I did properly invite Anne with this one. Let's see, I'm not sure what's taken. Usually she's going to be on. Sorry about this. I guess while you're waiting here, let me just sort of update on a few things. So just a few days ago, I got the edited version of the Power of Us discussion out on the podcast feed. We did obviously stream that live, and you can find that live stream, but of course the podcast version is going to be a little cleaner, a little tidier, and whatnot there. Anne has told me that she is in the process of getting together the stuff from another live stream discussion. This was the Genesect movie that we did somewhere in March. And she's actually, looks like, getting the podcast started back up again, so that's good to hear. Something she's kind of been working on for a while. Let's see. Let's double check my email, make sure Anne didn't try to send me something in there. There's something horrible for webcam is down or whatever. Let's see. Let me just invite her one more time to this hangout. Hopefully, let's see. I'm not sure if I sent it earlier and stuff like that, but double checking there. But that's sort of that. And then in 2 weeks, we're planning on doing a live discussion of the music of the Detective Pikachu movie. Of course, that. Yep. So, okay. Did you run into some problems, Anne, or?
Well, I think I never got the invite the first time, so I was like trying to comment in the live stream or on
okay.
to like try to get your attention. Sorry.
These things happen. I thought I had sent it right after I started the hangout or relatively early there, but all right. I was just sort of explaining some of the things there, and hopefully things are going forward. But yeah, so that's sort of the lay of the land today. We're going to do a discussion. Not sure exactly how long it's going to take. This is one of our in-betweeners, so you never know. But that's sort of the gist of it there. All right, so let's see. For the actual thing, I am going to move up close to the microphone here. Let's see, move that forward just a shade. All right. Let's see. Make sure my recorders are awake. All right. Other than that, I just want to go ahead and get a quick start since we got a little slow there. Ann, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
All right. So let me go ahead. I'm going to hit record there. And record there. Okay. Hi, folks. Steven here. I'm on the phone with Ann from Pikapi Podcast. And in a break between the 5th and 6th generation of Pokemon movies, we're doing a special musical discussion on live Pokemon music. Specifically, we're talking about live versions of vocal Pokemon songs. We're not really considering like the Pokemon Live stage show or anything from like Symphonic Evolutions. What we're talking about here mostly are things that have been used as like on a movie soundtrack or something like that. And then the artist themselves has done a live rendition of it in one form or another. So Ann and I, for this discussion, have each picked out 3 songs.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 I picked out a live versions of Don't Say You Love Me by M2M, Flying Without Wings by Westlife, and Brother My Brother by Blessed Union of Souls. And why don't you tell the folks at home the 3 ones you picked out?
I picked Chisaki Mono by Asuka Hayashi, and Egao by Ikimonogakari, and Dreams by Alicia Antonio, or just Alicia, as she was known at the time.
Yeah, before we continue in, I just noticed your microphone doesn't seem to have that windscreen cover on it that I asked you to...
Yeah, no, I don't have it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about
that. That's why it's not there.
All right. Yeah, after editing some of the previous stuff there, I've noticed that Ann has some pop consonants in her stuff, which we all do, but it was something I realized she didn't have a windscreen cover. But boring technical stuff aside, we'll resume with the actual discussion. All right, well, the way this is going to go about is that we've decided that we're going to alternate songs. I'm going to go first. So the first song I picked out, this is a live version of Don't Say You Love Me by M2M. Of course, that's originally from Pokemon the first movie, heavily featured, not technically the main ending theme song, but featured in the credits. There's a music video for it, of course, and fun stuff like that. But this is a version, it's actually from a TV show in Australia. Let me show you, the folks at home. This is the only one of mine that I have a physical copy of. It's on this thing called More Music Live from the Panel. And the panel, there's actually several shows by that name. Excuse me. This is referring to a show on, let's see, Australia's Network 10, I believe, that ran in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it was sort of maybe across, it was an evening show, but it was, I guess the biggest analogy I could come up with here would be like a daytime talk show, like The View or Ellen, maybe. But with a panel of folks on the show, and they had musical guests, including, of course, M2M at some point. Now, the actual recording, you might have heard it back on PIRN back in the day. But it's pretty hard to find. I didn't find it uploaded officially or otherwise to YouTube. However, for a point of reference, if you want to hear this, it's very similar to some of the acoustic versions that M2M has done of Don't Say You Love Me. And there is a commercially released one of that, which actually, kind of a little bit of news here on that. I just was browsing through iTunes a day or two ago, and I noticed that there is sort of an acoustic / unplugged collection of M2M songs that recently got put on there. And it's probably on most of the other music services. And it has the acoustic version of Don't Say You Love Me. I kind of joked, it's almost as if Warner Music somehow got the the feeling that something big was coming up in the Pokemon sphere that would make people maybe look out for that one. But that is, well, it is not the same recording as what we're going to talk about here. It is pretty much instrumentation wise the same version of it. But anyway, as for I talked a little about the panel TV show, but as far as when this was recorded, it must have been late '99 or early 2000 because the album has a copyright date of 2000, so it must be sometime up through then. But rather than like the full instrumentation you might be aware of from the album cut, either on Shades of Purple or the Pokemon the first movie soundtrack or the single or whatever, this is, as I said, it's an acoustic version. It's Marianne and Marit on guitars and the like, and gives the song a very different feel, something a little more less bold, and I would say a bit more intimate. And do you kind of agree with that? You did listen to an acoustic version of the song. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. And I would say I like, as much as I like the recorded version on the single, like they have a very aspirated quality to their voice when they're trying to be the poppy sound. So hearing this acoustic version, I was really able to appreciate like how good of singers they actually are, and their harmonies and their ability to blend together. So like, I don't know, like that's true of many acoustic versions of songs in general, but yeah, I just got a better appreciation of their talent by hearing a stripped down version of this song.
Yeah, I think one of the notable differences is actually on the bridge. They do. I'm not really sure exactly how to describe it. It's sort of it's not quite an ooh type sound, but where they do a little bit of two-part vocals there and go back and forth. But that's one of the sort of the key differences from the regular album version in terms of as well as obviously the very much pared down instrumentation there. Those were kind of the main thoughts I had in there. It's actually this acoustic version is also available on like there's some like promotional CDs that have it on there. There's actually I have it on a 45, the commercially released acoustic version, not the live version, where it's the B-side to Mirror Mirror. So you might find it on that single as well. So definitely gives a little bit of a different vibe there with that. And of course it uses I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that the Pokemon version of this song has a one-line edit. But in this case, it uses the Kissin' Me lyrics. But that's most of what I had to say. I guess we should probably comment a little bit on how this song has sort of aged a bit over time. It's still, I mean, it's not, I'm going to say the deepest song ever, but it is still a pretty fun song to listen to, Anne, don't you think?
I agree. I like it a lot. And it's just very charming, this particular version of it.
So give that a shot if you can at some point. Okay, so Anne, why don't you take the first of your songs there? Tell us a little bit about it and like where it was recorded and things of that nature.
Okay, so my first pick was Chisaki Mono, A Small Thing by Asuka Hayashi. That was the ending theme song for the Pokemon Jirachi movie. We've already talked a lot about Ms. Hayashi, so we'll skip that. But this particular performance happened on November 17th, 2012 at the Center for Remembering and Sharing in NYC. For those of you who don't know, which is probably all of us, the center is this cultural space founded by a woman called Yasuko Kasaki. And in her words, their mission is to help people experience miracles. And their idea is like when people come together and share arts and creative arts and their spiritual practices and get to know each other, they can get to know themselves and kind of foster love for each other and healing and all the good things. So they do a lot of classes and exhibitions and other types of events. And this particular concert was a very small, like looking at the video, I don't think there were more than 75 people in that room. But a concert, and there were dancers and other types of musicians. And Asuka Hayashi was one of the performers, and in fact did the first song of the night. So I don't know. Do we have links to any of our choices in the comments right now? We will later, maybe.
I'll definitely try and include those as cards in the discussion where
Okay.
possible. Although there's 6 songs and I only get 5 cards, so we'll see
True.
how that one
Okay.
works out.
All right. Well, you guys
But
might have to
definitely,
Google this on
yeah.
your own then, because it needs to be seen. Because Asuka brought a prop. When we covered this song several episodes ago, we mentioned that the narrative of the song is of a woman singing to a young baby, only to reveal later that the child she's singing to is actually her younger self. So this song gets a whole nother layer of feels in this performance, because Asuka brings out her own child and starts singing to her daughter. And it's touching. And then it's also humorous, because there's a moment where the baby like doesn't want to behave and tries to swan dive out of her arms. So, and like, it's just a wonderful concert. It's so sweet. It's so well performed. And Asuka handling a misbehaving baby while also belting out some of those high notes, it is just proof that she is a pro. It's such a lovely concert.
Yeah, that definitely takes talent. It's a nice touch. I can't imagine it was, you know, obviously this was in New York City and she's from Japan, so probably had to fly from, Tokyo to New York or something of that nature,
Yeah.
to actually make this happen. I would love to know how they selected her and all that stuff. Would be
Yeah.
some neat stuff there, but it fits the song. It works out really well. It's a neat little performance. I think that's kind of going to be a theme with our discussion here, is that each of these performances is under a somewhat different set of circumstances, which is,
Mm-hmm.
you have that polished song, the studio version, and then the live version, you run into, they try to get it as good as possible. You run into real world stuff there. You have to
Mm-hmm.
sort of account for those things.
Right.
Yeah. This version of the song, it made me really appreciate that song. I really appreciate it a lot, both it and the English "Make a Wish" a lot, and made me appreciate it more. I actually teared up a little bit over it. I'll admit that. I'm a big enough man to admit that. But really glad. I may have run into this somewhere before, but I think you pointing this out to me, I'm really glad I got a chance to take a look and a listen to this today. It's really, really good. Does it? The instrumentation is obviously they don't have an orchestra behind her. Obviously, they have a piano and some other stuff. How does that kind of change the experience?
Like, honestly, for my part, like, I don't think it was even like a piano. I think it was like an electric keyboard. So I didn't love that. But again, for what it was, like just being in a small room and it's all about her voice, I think it's okay. But obviously, if you can get a proper piano, like that would have just made it. But
And just want to say hi. We do have a person or two in the audience. Thank you very much for tuning in live. We always appreciate that.
hello.
But that's one of the reasons we started doing these live, is we did want to get some feedback. If you have any questions about how these have been, I'm guessing, and that this song doesn't have any sort of commercial release. It's really just sort of a straight up performance.
Yeah, the center itself posted videos from that night, so you can find this and feel pretty good about its legality. But yeah, it's not like released. I don't think you could buy it or anything. It wasn't streamed on television or anything. But it is on YouTube by the source, the OP.
All right. Well, let's head back over to one of the songs I wanted to discuss. Obviously, didn't start as a Pokemon song, but at least I would say here in America, it's got a reputation due to its association with the second movie. But "Flying Without Wings" is quite likely, almost certainly, I would say, actually, Westlife's biggest hit ever. So they'd be pretty remiss if they didn't have some extra versions and some live versions of that. If you do a search on YouTube, you'll actually find quite a bit of stuff they've posted. But the one I specifically picked out It actually was released. The audio was released commercially, although you're going to have trouble finding it now. I think it was it was on the old. It was on iTunes when it was originally released. You could get it in the U.S., but between like the 2009 DRM purge and various other things, I don't know that you definitely can't get it in the U.S. and you might not be able to get it other places, but the actual performance is officially on YouTube, and you can totally check it out there. But this was recorded back in. Let me check my notes. Wrong window. There we go. Okay, so this live version was recorded in 2004 in Stockholm, Sweden, at a place called the Globe Arena. And basically, what this is a venue that opened up in 1989, and it's used for concerts. And it notes on the Wikipedia page that I looked up that it's also used for hockey, which, being a Nordic or Nordic country, that's not entirely surprising, I suppose. I hope I use that term correctly. Scandinavian, I think, is the term I meant to use. But in any case, well-known venue there, and it uses different instrumentation. Now, Flying Without Wings, the original studio version, is not the most super energetic track ever. It's not designed to be. It's not supposed to be. But this one, it does have a bit of a different feel to it. So when they start, first of all, they have a piano background, a very soft piano background there. But they actually start doing repeatedly saying, fly, 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 flying without wings, and all that stuff. A lot nicer than I did just there. And then they sort of go into the song, and it feels a little bit slower. And actually, I think has a really interesting flow to it that's distinct from the original version. It's not. I don't know. I'm not sure I can come up with the exact words, but Anne, you did take a look at this. What did you think?
Well, I agree. Like, I really love that beginning where it's just fly, fly, and like they made a lot of choices throughout that performance of how to rearrange that track to highlight what they do well, like their harmonies and singing and like have a connection with the audience too. Like, they really made that song special. And I think on the specific clip you linked to me to, like their intro, they were talking about how they wanted to have the audience be able to sing along with them and kind of interact with them. And I think they really showcased the song in a way that allowed them to have that interaction. So it really looked to be a special moment for everybody who was in that audience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is one of the, like I said, when this originally came out, I mean, Flying Without Wings is, if there's any Pokemon song, assuming you count this as one, that has more covers than the original dub English Pokemon theme, it would be Flying Without Wings, for a variety of other reasons as well. Although I can't imagine having in Pokemon 2000 reduced its stature in any way. But yeah, there's something really special about this version that Westlife does. Obviously there's the whole, boy band type of aesthetic, or whatever you want to call it there, that gives these songs a fair bit of appeal, but it's well performed and definitely worth checking out. It sounds like from the intro they gave that they also did some other versions of some of their other songs that they tweaked around a little bit for that concert or performance or showing or whatever. So that might be worth checking out, even if you're just like a fan of the group and you somehow missed this. I should note that actually this when this was released as a digital single, it actually charted quite well for the group and in the UK and they're originally from Ireland, of course, but did very well there in solo copies, and I did pick up one myself, but unfortunately, I think it's not one you can really get easily now. But like I said, the live actual video is up on YouTube, and you can take a look at that. And go ahead to your second song.
Okay, let me pull it up. It is Egao by Ikimono Gakari, also known as Smiling Face. this is their performance from a television show, a live television show called Ongaku no Hi, which translates to Music Day. It was performed the same year the movie came out, I believe, June 23rd, 2013. Um, Ongaku no Hi is a broadcasting music program. Is a music program on the TBS broadcasting channel, and they do a lot of super events where they broadcast like back-to-back music acts for hours, big concerts, all sorts of things. Like Ongaku no Hi is pretty darn famous, and it's entirely possible that I am conflating this particular Ongaku no Hi performance with another one, but I'm pretty sure it's the June 23rd show. And yeah, it's just they play live, the two guitarists and the lead singer. They also have an extra bass player and drum kit behind them, and it's just such a happy song. I do believe this was one of the debuts, and it's just hard not to grin along with the lead singer. Seeing it live, like you just get this sense of joy and hope throughout the whole thing. It's really, it's just energetic and fun.
Yeah, yeah. As you may recall, of course, we talked about this song during our last discussion on the Genesect movie. I assume then you said this came out in June of that year, so I guess there was some sort of promotional aspect to sort of build a little buzz, not only for the song. I don't know if they mentioned the movie anywhere in like subtitles on the screen or whatever or anything like that, but do you know if there was an intention for that, or?
I imagine it would have gone hand in hand, because usually, like, not on this particular video, there wasn't a little placard saying so as the song was playing. And like for this concert, Ikimonogatari would have done a whole concert set, and this was the first song in the set. So might not necessarily have had a place, but at some point in the show, they would have talked to the hosts and promoted what their single was tied to, because that's usually how the Japanese promotional circuit goes. Is they're very open about like, and this is tied to X movie or drama. So I'm sure it was part of the movie promotion, because Pokemon movies tend to premiere early July. So
Yeah, I was kind of curious. The instrumentation, I mean, sometimes there are limits on live, and I do think the vocals were performed live. We always want to, I mean, sometimes live, quote unquote, live shows will involve the person lip syncing to a previous recording of themselves. But this does seem like it was performed live. But the instrumentation, very, very close to what we hear on the thing. There are no particular liberties, it seems like. Is that your observation, or did I miss something?
no, that's right. And it kind of goes along with when we were talking about Ikimonogatari, the band, is they came up kind of honing their skills as an acoustic act. Like they don't have a lot of huge instrumentation on their CD. They record rather like they perform, which is mostly just the girl, their guitars, maybe a drum kit. So it's not a huge reimagining for this show of the song, but it is, hearing it live, I think, does bring a special energy that you don't always get from a recording, I think.
Yeah, it's always a little bit different when you hear it live. No matter, I mean, acts, like I said, they sometimes they have to flat out do specific, technical things to sort of approximate a sound or something like that. But this one was pretty close, and obviously very close to the release of the movie as well. So always pretty neat when you have stuff like that. Okay, I'm not sure how much else I have to say. There's this in part because that version was just so close to it. So
Yeah, like the
um,
only thing is, again, with acoustic versions, sometimes you notice different parts more than others. I did notice the guitar solo a lot more in this performance, just because it wasn't overshadowed by everything else.
yeah, live mixing can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're
Yeah.
doing this for television or radio or stuff like that for a concert. Always a few more variables in there, but it seems like they did a pretty good job. We don't seem to have too many of these types of shows in the US. They seem to be more popular in Europe and Asia and other stuff like that versus
Yeah.
not sure particularly why that is, but it does seem to be the case here in America. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there probably is a whole other episode to have on that, but if we did some research, but for now.
Yep. I suppose so. All right. Well, I've got one more song to talk about on my end, and this is a live version of Brother My Brother by Blessed Union of Souls. Of course, from that dramatic, fight scene from Pokemon the first movie. Now, I do kind of want to mention, some of you may know that I interviewed Elliot Sloan from Blessed Union of Souls. Uh, it's about, 14 years now. This was back when I was in college. I happened to be very fortunate, and they did a show at the university I was at. So, very lucky there. But I did watch the entire show, and actually, I volunteered to do security a little bit to, in part, to give me a kind of an in on the interview. I will admit that. Um, but I do know that their set list did not include this song at the time. So I can only assume that as the Pokemon audience has grown up and stuff like that, that they can, that they have, let's see, has grown up and stuff like that, that they've sort of adapted it in, gotten more requests for it, and put it, worked out whatever paperwork they needed to get it into their live shows if there was anything of that nature. Because although Elliot did work partially in the song, it's also got, I think John Loeffler did some work on that as well. In any event, this actual recording comes from, let's see, it's called Never on Sunday is the name of the venue. Now, I have to add a little asterisk to that. This is a restaurant / nightclub / something of that nature in the northeast suburbs of Cincinnati, Ohio. You may remember that Blessed Union of Souls is a Cincinnati or Ohio-based band. Now, I did check on this, and it seems like this was originally released in 2015, so I assume this recording is either from 2014 or 2015. But since then, it seems like I don't know if it's changed hands, but it's definitely changed names to something maybe a little more generic. Maybe it has a new owner, or they had to change the name for some particular reason. But in any case, if you go looking for it, like I said, it's in the northeast suburbs of Cincinnati. But it's not a huge venue from what I can tell as a result. I'm not sure exactly how much seating there is. The recording doesn't seem to get a lot of crowd noise in there to kind of begin with. I'm not sure exactly what their setup was. There's no video that I know of there. But he does announce the song as they're starting it and stuff like that. I didn't hear like a huge bunch of cheers from the audience, but he did sort of acknowledge, I guess at least one or two of the folks there did kind of know where this song was from. It really is kind of like their third or fourth most popular song, and stuff like that. Anna, did you have, before we get into the sort of the meat of it, any other thoughts there?
Well, I want you to give your first impression of the recorded song, so I don't want to take over from that. But I was able to listen into it, and I kind of agree that not a ton of crowd noise, but maybe that's why it was able to get such a good recording, because for it being live, I was kind of impressed by the quality, I guess, of the track.
Yeah, it's some of it depends on if the venue is wired for like recorded sound, or is just straight up, regular old venue or stuff like that. So if it's wired for that, that might be a good thing. Yeah, live recordings do vary substantially in quality. To get the prerequisite NXS reference in here, there's the Live Baby Live album was recorded the same year as another one of my favorite live albums, the Four on the Floor album by the a cappella group The Nylons. Both were recorded in 1991. But the fidelity of the recording varies greatly because the NXS one was recorded in a large stadium outside London, and the other one, I guess, had a more better setup, and obviously with just 4 vocalists and a rhythm track, probably a little bit easier there, and sounds actually very close to, say, a studio album. So you're going to get a mixture of things depending on the venue and all that stuff. But enough about that. Let's talk about the actual sort of recording. If you've heard the album version, it's in many ways very much the same. They do have sort of a synth intro. It's different than the one that's used on the album track. But the vocals, I would say, one of the things you'll find in live music, the vocals have a much more I don't want to say more heartfelt. That's probably not the right word, but maybe a grittier feel to them than in the regular, more polished studio version. Would you kind of agree with that, Anne?
Yeah, live singing is definitely a different beast than recorded singing. I can definitely say that from personal experience. So, yeah, you definitely, no matter how hard you try, you will never sound like you're recording. And the singers that can kind of use that as a strength are the ones that really succeed in live performance, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, even though Elliot was an adult when he recorded the original version, it's been about 15 years between when the song was originally released and this. So I think it's maybe changed on his side a little bit too as he's gotten older. Um, Kind of the other thing I kind of wanted to mention though is from a sort of a technical standpoint is that there is a what is it? Oh, it's the there are some extended passages. This version is longer than what's on the original album. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, there's a pretty good there's like a second bridge or like a breakdown section towards the end that has a maybe not the most amazing guitar solo ever, but I'd say it's pretty decent. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
No, I like that. I love the solo, and I just love this live mixing. Like I've always liked the track as the studio recording as we get in the movie, but there's something just so crisp and like proper rock band about this track recorded live. I may go out and buy this track when we're done recording here today. Like it's
Yeah, totally
lovely.
available not only on YouTube as an audio track, but also on your music store of choice. You can buy it individually and stuff. So, not sure exactly how much effort they had to go through to get it cleared and stuff like that, but I'm glad they did. I think
Mhm.
honestly, having this sort of live version of it makes it feel a little. Not that it was illegitimate before, but it makes it feel a little more real and something of I guess is the best word I can come up with there.
Yeah, and it like I've heard other songs by this band, but like this is kind of one song that seemed a little bit different in my mind. It didn't fit with the same like standing at the edge of the earth and all the other songs that I loved them for. But this performance of it seems a bit more in line with the image that I have of them from everything that wasn't their one Pokemon track. So it's kind of nice to hear.
And I do have to say, I guess this is both a good thing and a bad thing, but I still feel like this song is relevant in today's day and age.
Yeah, very much so. Like
All right,
it's
before
sad
we
to
go
say
on
that it'll
to
never go
the
out of out of relevance, probably.
quite possibly not, but actually, we did get a question from the chat I wanted you to
Woo!
answer. We'll
Woo!
edit this out in the actual version, but this is actually, I just wanted to you to restate what was for a small thing, what was the name of that organization in New York City?
Yes, let me look it up so I don't misspeak. It is the Center for Remembering and Sharing in New York City.
Just curious, do they do anything besides just music type stuff? Do they do art, like physical art and stuff of that nature, ballet or anything like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
there?
they do art exhibitions, they've said, dance exhibitions, a lot of classes, and a lot of stuff like meditation and public speaking and like spiritual type ceremonies. So, yeah, it's kind of a catch-all space around the cultural and spiritual arts. Yoga, I think, was one of the other things I saw in there.
Yeah, yeah. New York is an interesting city, and it's great that they have something like that. I may have to look just more into the organization afterwards.
Yeah, in a listener who asked the question, if you live in New York and you manage to find this place, come back and report someday. Email us. We'd love to know.
All right. Well, I'll transition back to your third song there, and we can sort of talk about it.
Okay.
All right, Anne. Well, it's sorry. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers the brother my brother. Now, Anne, you had one more song there. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, my lucky number 3 came from Pokemon 2000. And for all of us who got the DVD of that movie, we would have seen this on the special features. It is Alicia and the song Dreams. And on that DVD, there was a whole feature about this young girl, Alicia Antonio, and her goal of becoming a singer. Um, if you haven't seen the feature, as a summary, she was a young singer who entered a singing contest, which one thing led to another. Eventually, she scored the track "Dreams" on the Pokemon 2000 soundtrack, and Warner Brothers really heavily promoted her and kind of tried to build her up as a rising artist at the time. And the Pokemon Company did the feature for the DVD around a young girl setting out to achieve her own dreams. And she's from San Antonio, Texas. Her full name is Alicia Antonio. And while I wouldn't say she got to like mega star status, she does seem to still be doing things in the music industry. It's hard to find a presence on websites or social media for, but you can find music where she is credited on still as late as like 2014. So she's still working, living the dream. Good for her.
Yeah, I think if I can interrupt here. Sorry.
Go for it.
So just a few things. Yeah, she has. I've tried to track her down myself. I think her name will occasionally come up. I think she had an album in like, I don't know, it was either 2002 or 2005. After kind of her big major label deal kind of evaporated and stuff like that. And but so she keeps plugging along. I don't know if she has maybe some other day job where that pays the bills or something like that. But I'm glad she's still in the music. A little more about that special or those special features. So, if I recall correctly, around the time the movie released, there was a special on the WB network here in the States. I guess you might have been living in Canada at that point, so I'm not sure how it would have reached you if some other network there had it. But they did a whole special, half-hour special or whatever on the movie, talking about mostly a lot of the music stuff. They had stuff with there were a couple live performances in front of a crowd. It wasn't broadcast live, but there was a live crowd performance. And they also had some brief snippets from like Weird Al Yankovic and one or two other folks. And they had some I think Donna Summer was actually in front of the audience a little bit there, but she also had some pre-recorded stuff they had in there. And I think trying to remember, I think Denise Lara is also featured in one of the segments there, the One song. And I think there's some like, I don't know if it's a country music person or something that's also like listens in and stuff like that. But I don't know if Warner Bros. Really did too many of these afterwards. They did something kind of similar for the Iron Giant back in '99 on Kids WB. Which you can see in some of the special features on that. But I did kind of want to mention, and by the way, you have to have the like original release DVD to get these special features. They're not on any of the newer releases for, licensing reasons and stuff of that nature. But kind of wanted to, sorry about that kind of wall of speech there.
No. I never got to see that whole thing, so good on.
Yeah, they really did that. Although I think we may be talking about in not too long why maybe it hasn't happened too much since, at least that I know of. If anyone does, let us know. But go ahead and whatever you were going to say next. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so this was my third lucky number 3 pick, just because personally, like as a young person who wanted to be an entertainer and loved Pokemon, like this was it. Like I think we all want that moment. This is Alicia's Pokemon League moment, to stand on a big stage with a crowd screaming and achieve the thing you set out to do. As for the performance itself, it's very similar to the CD recording. You can tell she's singing with a backup track. It's definitely mixed in with some pre-recorded vocals, but she is singing live, and the vocals are a little more raw and less polished. But I really like it because I'm sure to be there and hear Donna Summer singing would have been fantastic. But there's something about hearing young singers, I think, where you can see that they are talented, but they have not logged as many hours performing in front of large crowds as, some other grown adults might be. And it's like that beautiful mix of her kind of, you can see the fear in her eyes and hear it in her voice, but also the excitement. And there's just something so very Pokemon about that. That sounds like Ash walking into his first league tournament. And I really love that performance for that. Like, I don't know if I would love a live version of this song as much with Alicia in like her 20s with years of experience behind her. maybe I would. I'm sure if she was a great performer, she could sell me on it. But like, there's something about this little girl who's like 13, was she at the time, and kind of just stepping into this world. And there are flaws, but there's also just so much joy to be up there with people screaming at you.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic on the second movie soundtrack because the first movie, I'm not sure in terms of like when they were formed versus when they did a song for that. I think the oldest group might actually have been Blessed Union of Souls, who had been around for 4 or 5 or 6 years. Most of the other
Something like
ones
that,
were
yeah.
relatively recent, within the last 2 or 3. Maybe a little bit longer than that. Versus on the second movie, you have a couple, at least at the time, living legends. You had Donna Summer, who obviously has since passed away, but you also had the B-52s. You had Weird Al Yankovic. Some really long-term big names that are still relevant now for the most part. And maybe that was a little intimidating because I think they also had I know there are vocal performances by Dream Street doing They Don't Understand, and also let's see, Youngstown and Nobody's Angel doing the Pokemon World from there. um that last group there seems like they're the most quote unquote ready. We're not really sure. I suspect that they didn't have a ton of time to rehearse and prepare for this, and also depending on how long it had been since they recorded the studio version and when they did this performance might also have factored into some of that. um I don't know. Part of me thinks that maybe this thing didn't go over quite as well as Warner Bros. Had hoped, and maybe I'm not sure, but yeah. So that's about what I have to say there. I'll agree that she didn't look as super comfortable as some of the other folks there, but or as some of
But you couldn't expect her to at that age either. So
no, I mean performing. I mean, like I said, this wasn't, as far as I know, broadcast live, but in front of a live audience on national TV. That's intimidating, even more so than maybe a local show. And if you don't have the, that can I guess kind of be a problem with some of these um, people who are found very close to the beginning of the career versus say a rock band that you know plays in clubs for years before they ever really get noticed. And
yeah.
that's worth noting here too. That's one thing I really liked about the songs we discussed here is the circumstances are pretty much all at least somewhat different for these 6 songs. Different for the most part. There, at least 4 or 5 different cases, I would say.
Yeah, you've
Um,
got Blessed Union of Souls like playing live in a small club, and Westlife in a huge arena. You've got Asuka Hayashi with like a baby crawling all over her, and a young little girl just starting out for the first time.
yeah, really interesting stuff. And if we do another one of these, I'm guessing we'll find a few more things out there. I'm just going to give the chat a little bit of time. We've got a couple people in there. If you have anything you want to mention here, go ahead and usually put that out in the chat, and I'll take a look, and we can maybe bring that in. So I just want to give folks there a moment. I think we've got at least one other person besides me monitoring this.
With some of these bands that are known, like not just for Pokemon, like say Westlife or Blessed Union of Souls, when you hear a live version like this and it's a little bit altered or remastered or what the like, um, what strikes you most? Do you still feel like, oh yeah, this is still my Pokemon song, or do you view it in a slightly different way,
Well,
or
it's
does it
interesting you bring up Flying
depend?
Without Wings and Westlife. That's one of the more disputed ones, I suppose. Of all the songs that are actually like in the movie proper, that one's in the end credits of the second movie. That is an interesting setup there with Donna Summer, Weird Al Yankovic, and Westlife in that end credits sequence. Because in Europe, that was a very high charting single, number 1 in several countries. In America, we didn't really see much any chart performance until the Ruben Studdard version a few years later. Um, I don't know. Like I said, with that one in particular, it's hard for me to say. Like, it would still be a relatively famous song if it hadn't been used in the second movie. As far as like having an alternate version of it, I don't know how to really answer that question, to be honest, because that's the thing with
I was just
these.
curious.
The fact that it's still important to the group, I guess, means that we didn't harm it in any way, or I should say, Pokemon didn't harm it in any way, harm its reputation or anything like that. Because we certainly wouldn't want that. I don't know.
No.
That's probably not an episode we will be doing in the future. Is Pokemon or artists whose reputation was harmed by doing a Pokemon song?
Oh gosh, surely not.
I certainly hope that's not at least not in the not too common of an occurrence. But yeah, I think that I'm not getting anything from the chat here, so I think we'll just continue.
So they think we're perfect. Yay!
Somehow I'm not sure about that one.
I live in hope.
But in any case, we are totally open to doing another one of these in the future. There are some other ones out there, and certainly, like with Blessed Union of Souls, you never know. Maybe in the future, Al will get clearance to use Pokemon in his live shows. I did see him a couple years ago, and he doesn't use it there either. Kind of unfortunately, but we'll have to see where things go from there. Don't have any particular audience feedback to share, but like I said, if you do have any comments, go ahead, type those either into the chat or into the comments if you're watching this on replay, and we'll try and work those into a future episode. But our next episode, we're going to be cramming these pretty close together, so at least this one ended up being a little bit shorter. But the next episode, as you might guess, next weekend, Detective Pikachu releases in U.S. theaters. And so in 2 weeks, our plan is to do a discussion of the music of that movie, both the Rita Ora / Kygo song. There's also the song that's being produced, Electricity, being produced by Pharrell Williams, and the score to talk about. And, we'll talk probably about some of the songs used in the promotional things like the trailers and stuff like that. But very much looking forward to that, regardless of how my overall impression of the music. I think we're going to have a pretty interesting discussion. This is the first really big one for the English side in a long time. So very much looking forward to that. And I assume we have similar sentiments.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm intrigued. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure there will be things to talk about.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be doing some certain types of comparisons because, we got a music video to work off of and some other things. But until then, thank you very much, Anne, for being on.
Thank you.
This has been Stephen Reich. All right, folks, thanks. Okay, so that's going to be a good chunk of what we're doing here. This was definitely one of our shorter ones. I guess we got kind of lucky. I think 6 is a good number, though.
Yeah, no, I think that.
Like I said, if it does want to type in some comments, I did stop the recording, but they'll be recorded for posterity, and we can maybe work them in to another thing. Otherwise, put a comment on the video itself. If you have suggestions of live versions of other stuff. But yeah, Flying Without Wings, that may be another one. We could do one about disputed Pokemon songs, and we can debate whether or not they're a Pokemon song based on whatever arbitrary criteria. So we could do Flying Without Wings, Soda Pop from the first movie. Maybe we could talk about Happy Together from the first Detective Pikachu trailer.
Yes. That'll
give me another chance to mention the nylons again. Thank you very much, John. Like I said, we'll probably be trailing this off soon, but I want to give folks a chance to say thanks and check out our other stuff. Like I said, the Power of Us, the edited version of that discussion is on the podcast feed. Hoping the Genesect one will come out relatively soon. But thank you to everyone who came in for this. Glad we had a few live folks there. That makes these a lot more fun. If it keeps scaling up, we'll have to figure out if we want to change the format a little bit, but love learning these things. I think I'm going to cut off the actual stream, but Ann and I are going to talk a little bit more. But all right, folks.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We always appreciate that. The more feedback we get, the better. All right.